Podcast. We'll start the mark. 3, 2, 1, and mark. Hello, good people. Welcome to the HeavenEarth Church Podcast. My name is Brad Miller, one of the producers and co-hosts of the podcast. We love to talk to people connected in the life of the church, and for they can share the stories about their life and about their connection to HeavenEarth Church and about the mission of the church. And so today we are just really happy to have with us Ron and Patty Stackhouse. So welcome. Glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Ron, let's just start with you. Tell us what's hometown for you.
West Maiden Springs, Indiana, West County, southern part of the state.
Awesome. Well, tell me just a little bit about growing up there.
Well, I was born the only child my mother ever had. She was 15.
Okay.
And I lived with her and my grandparents. Usually with my grandparents through the winter. My mom and stepfather worked on pipelines. So they would travel. I'd be with them in the summer, come back to Indiana. My grandparents would go to school.
So you had kind of a little bit of a nomadic life in a way, didn't you?
Got to go a lot of places.
Well, that's awesome. Patty, how about you? What's your hometown? Where do you hail from?
I was born in Indianapolis, in Lawrence, Indiana. Well, it's not. Anyway, I was born in Methodist Hospital, like my 6 other siblings.
All right.
And lived in the same house all 18 years till I got married. And we grew up in, it was called Lawrence Christian Church.
Okay. So tell me about growing up. What was something, you said you had several siblings and things. Give me one, warm or good thing about your growing up years. So, something that was kind of memorable about your growing up years.
Well, my parents, when I was younger, had a cottage up in Monticello. And so those are always good memories. And we'd have the youth group up there sometimes. And it was just a lot of fun when we went to the lake.
Awesome. Ron, tell us a little bit about your faith story, about either coming to faith in the first place or your faith journey that kind of led you along the way to become more of a committed Christian and deeply involved with the local church.
Well, in my little hometown of West Maiden, there was a little small United Methodist church still there, and my mom or my grandmother, either, would I suppose they took me when I was little, and then someplace around the 8-year-old range, my grandmother would get me ready, my clothes ready on Saturday, and send me to church.
Mm-hmm.
She would send me because she never attended church. She didn't feel she had nice enough clothing.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Which was just something of her background, I suppose.
Okay.
So went to this little church, attended it very regularly, had good nurturing people all my life. Someplace around 8 or 9, I'd come and ring the bell at 9:15. So the people in the community know they're supposed to be going to church. At 9:30, I ring the bell. You're supposed to be here.
Yeah.
And that
was kind of your job, the bell ringer. All right.
And there were people in that church that were very nurturing to me in my faith.
Awesome.
I could name 3 or 4 yet today.
That's awesome. Well, that is fantastic. And I love that imagery of you, the nurturing church, even though there was some discomfort or whatever on your mom's part or however that was working out. And then, but you got to have a role to ring the bell and people nurtured you and took care of you there. Well, Patty, let's talk about you. Tell me a little bit about your faith life, growing up and kind of what eventually led you to be what I know now as a committed part of the church.
As I said, I grew up at Lawrence Christian Church and was very blessed to have a very committed youth sponsor. And that youth sponsor taught us many things. And I think that helped me grow the most at the beginning. And of course, all my brothers and sisters involved too. And then many of them married spouses that were in the ministry. And so I became a Christian when I was 9. I was baptized then. And I just stuck to my faith the whole time, but I haven't grown as much as I have here at Heaven Earth.
Awesome. Well, we'll come to that part of our story here in just a minute, but I want to hear just a little bit more about your personal story in the sense of how you and Ron managed to get together.
Well, I was married 30 years to someone else, and uh, then I became single. And for my girlfriend introduced me to him. He was there with her at a church euchre party, a singles euchre party, and that's how I met him. And then 6 months to a year later, uh, he called me, wanted to know if I wanted to go out. And I wasn't really interested a lot, but I thought it sounds like fun, so I went out with him. And on the second date, I knew he was the one.
Wow. Had you been single for a fairly long time or short?
5 years.
So a fairly long time. And yeah, so you had got at least a little bit used to being on your own, I guess. Is that a fair thing to say? I just want to.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
still hard. I've never. I got married at 18,
Right.
and after high school, a week after high school, so I'd never been on my own, and so those were learning years.
Right.
And my faith grew a lot because I had to give it all to God because I didn't know how to do it myself, and I think I let Him be in control those 4 to
Right.
5 years.
And then I forget, I know you've mentioned that to me personally before, but you had a career as well. Is that right?
Yes, I was I was a store service manager in, like, grocery stores, O'Malley's,
Okay.
and then, I got into banking, and I was an investment banker,
Okay.
opening accounts and stuff in bank.
Awesome. Awesome. Ron, let's learn a little bit about you personally. Let's kind of start with what did you kind of evolve to do in your adult years, career wise and service and things of that nature? Tell a little bit of what happened that way.
I worked for about 8 or 9 years and got through Purdue University, graduated there. And then I worked in production management and material management, purchasing, production control. And then I had an opportunity to move into technical sales. So then I worked for about 30 years as a tooling application sales engineer. I would apply tungsten carbide, ceramic tooling, machine metals, calling on accounts like Cummins, Allison. I did that for 30 years. And,
Yeah.
as I tell everybody, jokingly, it fed the bulldog. It kept us going.
There you go. Well, I also know you served in the military, correct?
I was in the National Guard,
Awesome.
a helicopter unit for 6 years.
Well, that's great. Now, she mentioned how you two got together. Was what she said accurate for one thing? And then, I'm just going to say that you married up, of course. But tell me a little bit about how your perspective on how you two got together and what's been really good about that.
A little background there. My first wife passed away
Okay.
after we'd had a daughter. And then I was remarried and they didn't work, a couple times. Didn't work out. And I had 2 children in a second marriage, and when we got a divorce, she gave them to me. So I had 3 children, 14, 4, and 9 months, and was a single parent for some time. And then I didn't think I'd marry again.
Yeah.
And my friend Carol introduced me to Patty. We started dating, and I probably knew pretty soon that she was the right one, but I couldn't convince myself. That's the way I'll say it. We dated for 4 years.
Yeah.
And finally, I got the nerve to say, yes, this is the right one, and the Lord has blessed me.
Awesome. And so you had a relatively long time as a single father too. Is that right?
Yeah, threw a couple marriages in there,
Yeah.
and
Right.
raising my kids.
So, what a blessing. You two got together, huh? Been overall a good thing?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I know, Ron, tell me about you were at one of your prior churches, you were pretty involved, were you not, in terms of things that happen in your church? So you've been involved with the church for a long
Oh,
time.
yes.
In leadership capacities and things like that.
I was involved a lot in the church I was raised in,
Okay.
born in. I attended there for like 13 years and missed once or twice. In the summer, I'd be at my mom and stepfather,
Right.
who worked on pipelines. Wherever we were, they'd get me to church. Baptist church, Church of Christ in Louisiana one summer.
Yeah.
And then through the years, just stayed involved. It was after I got out of college, I decided to be baptized.
Okay. All right.
And I was baptized in, I was 27 or 8
Wow.
when I was baptized.
That's great. That's great. Well, tell us the story then. You've been involved with, it sounds like both of you kind of grew up in church and you were involved with church in your younger years, but also as adults, quite involved with church activities. So you're church people. So you grew up in, I think it's fair to say you grew up in churches that would be somewhat traditional in nature. Is that a fair thing to say?
Yes.
So now you're part of HeavenEarth Church, which has a little bit of a different model than a traditional church. So tell me a little bit how, I know part of the story here, but share with the folks that are going to be listening to this, how you, after being very involved with the churches you're part of, end up coming here and be a part of this initially. Let's start with you, Patty.
Initially, because our son is the pastor here.
Okay.
But and when he was at this previous church, I mean, God blessed me with a son that can help me grow in Christ and help me understand a lot more in a different way, which has been very good. And then, of course, when we're coming here, I can't explain it any better than that.
Sure.
He grows, and I love the people here, and it's joy and anticipate going to church every Sunday.
Yeah. Well, Ron, Patty just mentioned it's your son, Ross, who's the pastor here. I forget what you mentioned. You've got 4 children altogether. I forget.
Yes.
So in that, which one in?
There were 5. Patty lost a son.
Right. Okay. But yeah, I forget. He's not the oldest, is he?
No, he's the youngest.
He's the youngest. Okay. Well, just tell me a little bit how that evolved, how your youngest son ended up being, you connected with him as a pastor, and how you've got to be at least initially involved with HeavenEarth Church, and a little bit about your journey there.
Okay. Well, we always raised with children in church.
Yeah.
We went to church every Sunday someplace. And as teenagers, I told them it doesn't matter how late you come in, you're getting up with me. And we would go to church.
Right.
And then my older daughter, upon attending university, said, I'm thinking about going into religious studies. I said, that's between you and God. And she did, and she's a Methodist pastor. Then my middle daughter, who is very evangelistic, I'll say.
Yeah.
She attended Southern Indiana University, and Ross went to Purdue and decided to get a theological master's at Vanderbilt. Then he interviewed and came into a church, became a pastor, and Patty and I attended there. Our daughter was 4 away in a church. We got involved in that church, and then Ross chose to do a church plant, and we were involved in him starting that and deciding where the church would end up being, and he was offered the opportunity of the church that is now HeavenEarth, and we started attending here.
So you started attending, and if I'm understanding correctly, to support your son, that's a part of it at least.
Yes.
But it's, I know you've been a part of the church for some time, since its inception. So part of what, it's my understanding you're not here only to support your son. You're here because you made a connection. So tell me a little more about the connection you made, and Patty will come to you in a second on that.
When I talk to people today, this is often what I say. I don't attend HeavenEarth Church because my son is there. I'm fortunate that he is. but I attend it because that congregation, my son and his presentation, all feed my faith and nurture me in my faith and my family.
Hmm.
And I think the people of HeavenEarth Church, I think that's what most of them are. They're fed by what happens here.
Yeah.
And it's the relationship you have with Christ.
Yeah.
And how is it nurtured?
Relationship with Christ and how you're experiencing that here, and that's awesome. Patty, will turn to you. Similar question, but tell me about what the nuances, meaning, what is it about the relationships here that keep you being a part of things beyond your relationship with your son and your daughter who are here, I know. What keeps you here? What is part of the ongoing process of you being fed?
It's a little, this church is a little different than growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the things I learned has spread my knowledge of uh, the traditional church, helped me learn to reach out to people more,
Okay.
try to make a difference in little things and to live the life Christ wants me to.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, of course, and then we talked a little bit about how you came up in very traditional churches, and tell me a little bit about how, the nature of worship, the nature of church done in those small groups and things like that. How how did you navigate that, Ron? I'll start with you. How did you kind of navigate that? It is a little bit different than a traditional church. How would you do church here, and how do you understand it as being a meaningful part of your experience?
Uh, I think we that attend here get to think, and we're nurtured in what Christ really wants us to be. Uh, this might be a negative to some people when I make a statement that it's not just about salvation.
Okay.
It's about what can I do for Christ? One of my prayers often is, Lord, do to me what you must, to do through me what you will. And how we can be involved with people, concerned about people in the community. Uh, Another phrase might be, Lord, help me to be a window through which someone sees Christ.
Yeah. Awesome.
I think that's what our church exhibits and teaches.
One of the things you kind of touched on there, Ron, and you and Patty, I wanted you to get your comments about this, is that how there's kind of an application process of the gospel to real life things, and that's the name of the church is HeavenEarth Church. Indeed, the one of the things that Jesus says, Jesus spoke as if heaven can start to fill our lives now. And have you experienced this connection, this intersection, if you will, of heaven and earth? Actual, based on the name there, the intersection of where life meets spirituality. So, Patty, you want to speak to that at all? Do you think you see that happening around here?
Oh, yes. I always thought heaven's way up there,
Right.
when growing up and all the years. And then I've learned here that uh, a lot more about what heaven really is and how it's coming to us.
Hmm.
So I've learned from that. I didn't know that before here.
Well, Ron, do you see the intersection of heaven and earth, in kind of reality as how we experience it here at Heaven Earth Church?
I think so. It's what can we be? What is my involvement with Christ that's helps bring Christ to all of us?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, one of the church core beliefs says that Jesus' core teachings are simple and about love, but they are not easy. And I think, getting to know you a little bit, I think you embody that in a lot of ways. And what are some ways that loving others, and even through a setting like Heaven Earth Church, is simple but not easy?
Well, I think today's sermon at church was a discussion of other people, and we need to learn all peoples aren't just like me. They're not supposed to be. If a person is raised in many foreign countries, in our neighborhood, there's a few people from Nigeria. Met another gentleman from Dominican Republic. Doesn't matter if they're of darker skin or lighter skin or whatever. It matters what their relationship is with Christ and what their relationship is with their fellow man.
Well, let's go there for a second. You mentioned people of different backgrounds. Do you think, do you see one of the values the church lifts up is diversity? And we have some of that, maybe not just some, but do you think people with different thoughts or about different ways of approaching life or lifestyle, do you think there's room for them here at Heaven Earth Church? And how's this diversity being experienced right now? Do you see that happening?
Absolutely. A retired pastor that attends our church made a statement to me one day. He said, after 30-some years in the ministry, I look at this congregation and I will see somebody that's not wealthy, that's struggling, that's making it. I'll see another person that is a retired pastor or a physician or an attorney, and I'll see a full mix, be that economically, a diversity in backgrounds, and they all seem to come here and be fed.
Yeah. Well, Patty, one of the things we say around here, in fact, is even on the church website, if you don't fit in church, you'll fit in here. And sometimes people say this is a church for misfits, perhaps. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's truth in that statement? And if so, how do you see that being lived up?
Yes, I believe it's so because they're accepted here, and that helps them to grow, and they don't have to be this or that, like Ron said, but they can grow here, and they're accepted here, and they're learning the simple ways to be what Christ wants them to be.
Oh, that's awesome. Another part of the church life here, and even was on banners around the church and so on, and on the church mission statement says something to the effect of we exist to make a lasting impact in our community. And so let's talk about how that's lived out. What does that look like to you from your eye? Is there any effectiveness? Is it a true statement? Is it just a fluff statement we make to put on a banner somewhere? This church looks to make a lasting impact in our community. Rod, can you speak to that for a second?
Yes. We had a picnic this week to invite other people in the community to get to know them, to know that they're welcome here. People come here and drink a cup of coffee, eat a donut, listen to a message that fills their soul. Then some others will be online listening if they live farther away. I think it teaches us to have a real concern for our fellow man,
Yeah.
with our housing, our living conditions, and Recovery Church. Help people that's got a situation that they need help with.
Yeah. So the church is involved not only with the care of those who come, but also connecting the community with different programs and entities and social service agencies that the church supports, even houses in the location here. And that's a part, I believe, of the fulfillment of that mission statement. But ultimately, a church community is about how people experience God and share the good news with others. And that's all wrapped up in this thing we have here. So, Patty, I'd just like to ask you, in your experience here at Heaven Earth Church, have you had what we might call a God moment, or a moment when you just got, okay, there's something special here. There's some God thing going on here. Was there a moment or some experience that was kind of like that for you?
I felt it from the first time I was here. I mean, it just I can't explain it. It's like Heaven earth, heaven coming to earth. That was the first moment I really realized how that worked, Evan,
Yeah.
So it's just from the first day coming. I've just never been filled as much as I do here, this church.
Awesome. We're on in a similar vein, but just a little more personal. Have you had around your experience here at HeavenEarth Church what I might call a lump in the throat moment? A moment that's kind of just caught you off guard, where you might have kind of a visceral reaction or emotional moment that you saw, God's doing something here that is absolutely moving to me personally, and then it might be moving to others.
Marty, I think watching some people, pardon me, some people that have come here, I can think of two that had addictions that are now counselors in communities with a job to help people. Or to see, I've seen one young family that I've known for a long time. I think they have 3 little girls and a son, and to watch them and their warmth as they attend here and their faith is fed.
Yeah.
And, I'm an emotional man.
Indeed.
My son, upon one occasion, even said he's the only guy I know that can listen to the insurance commercial and get there. I do feel emotional about the people. And I'm one of the older people that attends here. And I'll see a full range of, my grandchildren up through and including a couple guys about my age. And everybody's fed. Everybody, I feel the emotion of it.
Awesome.
It's just gross.
Well, that's exactly what we're looking for. Your reaction. Well, this is the type of thing that other people may be looking at to kind of check out HeavenEarth Church to see if this is the kind of place for them. And a lot of times, folks have their own challenges. We've talked about some of them here about dealing with substance abuse and housing needs, any number of things that people have, real life needs. But what would you say to that person or persons who may be struggling and looking for a church or somebody or something to be helpful to them? And so what would you say to a person who may be checking out HeavenEarth Church? Let's start with you, Patty. What would you say to that person?
It's always, you always say to the person you're talking to, you try to relate to them, but mainly that it's a place to relax, to listen, to grow, and be yourself.
Relax, listen, grow, and be yourself. How awesome is that? Because so many times in church, going to church for the first time for many people is pretty scary. They're not relaxed. They're tensed. They are on their guard because they've had unhappy experiences. But you're sharing to the person who maybe listening to this, relax, listen, grow, be yourself. That's awesome. Ron, let's say there's somebody in your life, maybe a neighbor or maybe somebody you've known in your life who's struggling or dealing with something. And would you be willing to invite them to HeavenEarth Church? And if so, kind of a similar question to this. Why would you do that? And what would be your encouragement to them?
I absolutely agree with what Patty said. You're comfortable here. I would say to them, come and see what it feels like to be welcome. Sit down, have a cup of coffee, a donut, listen to a message, see if it feeds your soul. Don't do it just once. Come 3 or 4 times and see that it continues. See that you're comfortable here. See that people really care about you. That they're concerned with your relationship with God.
Yeah. Well, I just love what I hear here. Come and see, relax, listen, learn, and just for people to come and literally check it out, right? I mean, literally
Absolutely.
not feel overwhelmed or this kind of thing, but to have an opportunity to kind of at their own pace, as it were, to see what God can do. Come and see.
Absolutely.
I love that. Well, our guest today on Heaven Earth Church Podcast are two really incredible people, Ron and Patty Stackhouse, have been our guest, and we thank you for being with us. My name is Brad Miller, the co-host of this podcast, and we hope that you'll check out Heaven Earth Church. You can always check it out at the website heavenEarthChurch.com.